On November 23rd, 26th, and 29th, Manitoba Opera is going to be presenting Carlisle Floyd's amazing opera, Susannah. This is a absolutely gripping story that centers around faith and the church. One of the main characters on the production is the wonderful Manitoba soprano, Lara Ciekiewicz. And joining me here in the Classic 107 studios is Lara Ciekiewicz.
Hello.
Welcome to our Classic 107 studios.
Thank
it's nice
you.
to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so in a nutshell, can you just quickly give us a synopsis of Susannah? For Manitoba, it's a sort of unknown opera, right?
Indeed. First time that Manitoba Opera has been producing Susannah. So we meet the young Susannah Polk. She's still a girl, but sort of on the cusp of becoming an adult. And she's this young woman full of aspirations and dreams and hopes and possibilities. And she has this wonderful ability to see the world around her, you know, all the details and all the pretty things, and wonder what's out there and want to experience more of what's out there. And in the first act, she gets accused of public indecency, of which she is entirely innocent. And from that, the ball starts rolling about how her town and her church community takes on that story and interprets it in its own way, and how her story, her actual truth, lessens every step of the way, as much as she keeps fighting for what she knows is the truth. And it's also the revival season in the town of New Hope Valley, and the revival preacher is in town, so that adds an extra level of stress for her.
And New Hope Valley, from what I recall, is in Tennessee,
In
right?
Tennessee, yeah.
Right. So it's in the southern states.
Yeah, southeastern Tennessee, right in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. So we're in this beautiful setting, and in a town that is very strongly attached to its faith, but we start to see the human side of these people of faith, and how humans have failings and foibles, and how far down a path we can go in terms of mistakes that we might make and judgments that we might make from our human side, which affect Susannah. And ultimately, the preacher believes what the town says because he has no reason not to.
Right.
And she fights and fights and fights until she breaks, and she has a confrontation with the preacher. And spoiler alert, and also trigger warning, there is a sexual assault that happens off stage. Doesn't happen, you don't see it, but it happens, and it's very important to the story.
Right.
She's seen as a fallen woman, essentially, and fair game. And so the end of the opera, we see what the repercussions of that are for her, and that essentially she ends up losing everything to fight for her story and what the truth is. She loses her innocence. She loses her own faith. She loses all of the possibility of what her life might have been had she continued on as an innocent girl.
Right. And it's fascinating because Carlisle Floyd wrote it in the 50s. He himself said that it was the opera that really started his career. And yet Susannah it very much applies to today, especially with the Me Too movement and the rest of it. It's very much relevant now.
Indeed, unfortunately relevant, right? We haven't learned this lesson yet, that every life has equal value, and that being in a position of power doesn't give you the right to use somebody in whatever way, and that consent is a real thing and important. And there are so many pressures that can fall on a person that shouldn't be there. I think it's human to perhaps wonder, well, why does it happen? Why does she let this happen? But she doesn't. That's not the point. The point is she shouldn't have to have been in that position in the first place, right? So.
The music is somewhat interesting. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? I was reading that Carlisle Floyd takes a lot of the influence sort of from Appalachian music, and there is some very much Appalachian influence in there, which is a part of American music that I'm fascinated with.
Absolutely. So the second aria that Susannah sings is not an actual Appalachian folk tune, but very much in the style of, so it's strophic.
Strophic meaning?
Verse, refrain, verse, refrain, verse, refrain.
Right.
It's in the style of sort of a warning ballad, that would have been taught to young women, especially in that time, about, don't do this or bad things are going to happen to you. And in the, context of the story, she's singing it to remember her her mother and how her mother would comfort herself, and then she herself tries to comfort herself with this same song. The first theme we hear after the opening music is a fiddle tune that's very much in the style of Appalachian, fiddle music that you would hear. You could even, I could picture it being played on a banjo. It's that very mountain music style that is just so evocative of Appalachia.
Yeah, and I was doing some reading, and I didn't realize this, that Susannah is an extremely popular opera, but apparently the only thing that really beats it out when it comes to American opera is Porgy and Bess by Gershwin.
Yeah.
And Carlisle Floyd, I was watching an interview with him, and he says that he tries to make an effort to see the opera whenever it's performed.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable.
Indeed.
Do you want to talk about your co-stars on stage?
Sure, I'd love to. So we have a cast, both a large part of the cast is from here and then some from away. My brother, Sam, is played by the wonderful tenor from America, Michael Hendrick. He's just fantastic. And speaking of Carlisle Floyd, some Winnipeggers may remember him playing Lenny Small in Floyd's Of Mice and Men here in Winnipeg. It's a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Just fantastic singer, brilliant actor, wonderful colleague, beautiful voice. Gets to sing probably one of the most beautiful and also timely arias in the show.
Right.
Really wonderful. Olin Blitch, the Reverend, is played by the phenomenal Chris Ermiter, also from the States. He's from North Carolina. No, sorry, Chris. I think you're from South Carolina. South Carolina. Bad geography, Lara.
Yeah.
So he comes by that accent very honestly.
Just say all y'all.
All y'all.
Yums.
Yums. So it's been wonderful to have him on board. And he's also done the role multiple times, as has Michael. And I know Chris has done it with Carlisle in the room. So it's been great to have his input. And then Jamie McLennan, tenor based in Winnipeg, also from here.
Yeah, I went to school with James.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Fabulous little bat. A really tough sing and a tough role to play. He's a linchpin in many ways in the drama, and he's just doing a magnificent job. Jonalyn Grills, fantastic local mezzo, singing Mrs. McLean. David Watson singing Elder McLean, fantastic local bass baritone, and a whole other cast of local singers singing the elders and their wives. And,
right, and one of the questions that pops to my mind is, it centers around this town. Are there choruses that occur throughout the opera that sort of support things? Or
Absolutely. The chorus is an integral part of the show. The town itself is is a character. They are their individual people, but the town is one of those things that presses against her. And so the chorus has that really important role to play. There's, a beautiful square dance at the beginning and some wonderful hymn singing in the revival scene, which is probably one of the most powerful scenes, I would say, in the show in the second act. It's a master stroke of drama, I think, and also just a really, really magnificent musical scene and how it's crafted, and the chorus is a massive part of that.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing, amazing opera.
It really is.
Lara, I just want to thank you so much for stopping by our Classic 107 studios and talking to us today. This has just been great. So, Susannah, music of Carlisle Floyd, is being performed by Manitoba Opera on the 23rd, 26th, and 29th. I'm going on the 29th.
Hey!
It's going to be just a great, great production. If you want more details about Manitoba Opera's production of Susannah, you can go to mbopera.ca. It's really going to be something not to be missed. Thanks once again for stopping by and talking to us.
Thank you.